Southern California, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. We have ourselves another busy show as we have a lot to talk about in the world of Southern California sports, such as USC and UCLA leaving the Pac-12 for the Big Ten. If you had this on your bingo card of unusual headlines in the world of sports, congratulations. That is huge right there. How about LAFC continuing its hot streak when it comes to the MLS? It looks like they are proving themselves as one of the most dominant teams in the league, if not the most dominant team in the league. While the Galaxy, on the other hand, they fell to Minnesota. But they're still in the top 7. And Angel City continues to struggle without Kristen Harper, while San Diego Wave FC is doing well in the NWSL. NBA free agency has started as Lakers and Clippers have been busy. And we also have quite a bit of dump-dumps. All that more here on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Friday afternoon, Friday evening, Friday, wherever you are listening from. Either way, I'm glad you are here. As we say hello to Andrew Hagenbaugh in the chat room. He says, what's going on, Teran? Nothing much, just got off of work, and I'm doing this show. And without any further delay, let's get into that Southern California sports action. But first and foremost, we have a word from our sponsor. iSports Radio is proud to call the Southern California Warriors semi-pro football team the official sponsor of iSports Radio. The world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organization. Players pay to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get filmed to try out for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance if you love your sport. You may get that second chance you've been waiting for as an athlete. You can follow them on social media at SoCal Warriors, on Instagram at Southern California_Warriors, and on Facebook by typing in the word Southern, then California, then Warriors. Then iSports Radio, the platform that this show goes live with, is available on Twitter and on Instagram at iSports Radio. And they also have TikTok, which is available at iSports Radio, and on Facebook by typing in the word IE, then Sports, then Radio. And they also have a website, www.iesportsradio.com. And when you go there, you will see a Patreon link, which starts out at $5 a month once you click it. This will get you a shout from all 28 of our shows, and higher tiers include iSports Radio merchandise, access to IESRU, the podcasting university of iSports Radio, even a chance to be featured on iSports Radio's segment of their flagship show, The Defining Moment with Larry B. Because for the past 8 years, iSports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we've been continued to be by the fans and for the fans. And with your help, we are ready to take the next biggest step. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. Shout out to our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised Apparel, Marcus Los Great, Key to the Gate, and an anonymous supporter. Also, a big shout out to our fan of the month, Justin Ekstrom. He is a Minnesota fan from the Great Lakes of Minnesota. And also a shout out to everyone that made IE Sports Radio's 8th year anniversary super special. Here's to many more anniversary specials to come. Now let's get on into that Southern California action, as honestly, we're just going to not do commercials. We're just going to go straight up all the way till we get to Dum Dum of the Week, and then I'll just let you all go on your way. As we say hello to Mike Pat in the chat room, he says, Teran, have a great show. And Marcus Los Great just popped in the chat room. He says, what up, what up, what up, no? Damn, it's been a minute since I've been in the chat. Hey, better late than never, Marcus. You are all good. So we're actually going to start with the biggest news, the elephant in the room. UCLA and USC are heading to the Big Ten. Now, honestly, this is probably the last bit of news I would see. Like, when I first heard this news, I'm like, is this for real, dude? Because it's like I thought someone was pulling our leg, and then it was actually real because John Wilmer confirmed it. And honestly, it's quite surprising. Like, the Big Ten is well known for its Midwest cities and teams and whatnot. Marcus says he can't believe he's been missing Dum Dum of the Week. Hey, it's no big deal, Marcus. I mean, I could probably catch up to speed on some of them. And I've got 3 of them for you at the end of the show, buddy. So spare with me. Anyway, so the Big Ten is well known for its Midwestern cities, and states such as Ohio, Indiana, Minnesota, Illinois. It's really surprising to see 2 California schools moving to that conference. So, honestly, it's really crazy. I thought this was just going to be for football, but then it makes no sense for it to just only be for football, considering why would you want non-revenue for the other teams that are still in the Pac-12? But I digress. So, for me, I think this is quite astounding. At first, it was just mind-blowing, just poggers if you ask me. But then it really does help out USC and UCLA. Yes, it just means the Pac-12 is pretty much going to be dead meat. But it means that USC and UCLA is going to get that stiff competition it's going to want. Not that they haven't been getting it in the Pac-12. It's just that now USC and UCLA are going to be in a bloodbath every night when it comes to the Big Ten. Especially in football. In terms of Big Ten football, it's going to be really intense. And I hope every California or USC/UCLA fan is ready to head up to the Midwest, because it's kind of going to be chilly there, and it's going to have like midday kickoffs. And what's going to be worse is that USC and UCLA is not going to be a part of Pac-12 After Dark. They're basically going to be Big Ten in the afternoon, if not. The only time we'll probably get to see UCLA and USC or any Big Ten school late at night is probably the game of the week. But beggars can't be choosers, honestly. So for me, I'm really excited to see USC and UCLA in the Big Ten. This will be effective immediately on, I want to say it was August 1st, 2024. So we get 2 more calendar years or academic years of USC and UCLA being in the Pac-12, and then off they go to the Big Ten, where they get to face the Penn States, the Michigan States, the Minnesotas, the Wisconsins, the Nebraskas, the Marylands, the Rutgerses, the Illinois. You get the point. Marcus says he can't wait to see UCLA and USC in the Big Ten. He says we are going to put hands and feet on Penn State and Michigan. I can't wait either. I think it's going to be fun times, especially for me, who is a volleyball aficionado. Like, the Big Ten, in terms of volleyball and football, in my opinion, or maybe even basketball for that matter, Big Ten might be pay-per-view at this point. Heck, the only thing that the Big Ten is going to lack when it comes to UCLA and USC joining the Big Ten is there's no wrestling, because USC and UCLA don't have wrestling teams, which is sad face. But it's okay. So for USC and UCLA, they will be a part of that Big Ten, and football games are going to be super lit. Like, everyone thought that Texas and Oklahoma leaving the Big 12 for the SEC was quite astounding. USC and UCLA said, hold our beer, and just up the ante tenfold. Soon it's basically just going to be SEC versus the Big Ten, and then all the other conferences such as the ACC and the Pac-12 and the Big 12 are just going to be basically the punchline. So for me, it's basically what I'm trying to get at is that the Big Ten and the SEC are trying to make boss moves. Well, and I'm also getting word that Oregon and Washington have pretty much filled out paperwork to try to leave for the Big Ten, which I kind of don't understand. And my other thing is the Big Ten is no longer going to be the Big Ten. It's going to be the bigger 12. That's because we already have the Big 12 in terms of like Baylor and all those other schools. But now we're getting an even bigger 12 conference. My only thing is that who's going to replace USC and UCLA? Because now there's no Southern California teams in that conference, and now it's basically going to be just Cal and Stanford carrying the weight of California. I mean, some people are saying Long Beach State should join the Pac-12, but do we really want Long Beach State in the Pac-12? Probably not. No offense. Like, they only excel in, like, a few sports. Like, Long Beach State only... no offense to Long Beach State, just because I'm an alum, but Long Beach State only excels in, like, really a few sports. And we're not going to count men's volleyball and water polo just because there is no Pac-12 in terms of men's and women's water polo. And then men's volleyball, there's no Pac-12. There's just MPSF, courtesy of Stanford, UCLA, USC, and a few other teams. But I'm getting off topic here. This isn't Set Point. This is SoCal Supreme Sports Show. No one wants to hear me babble about volleyball. So, anyway, back to Long Beach State. For me, I don't think Long Beach State should be in the Pac-12. Maybe Hawaii, but that's also a little bit of a long shot. It's like, it all depends on what California school actually is doing well. My answer is probably not a whole lot, just because the only Southern California team I could see jumping to the Pac-12 is San Diego State. And maybe Boise State. But for me, I think that would be the logical choice, San Diego State to the Pac-12, especially for football, like considering San Diego State did beat a bunch of Pac-12 schools last year, including Utah, the eventual Pac-12 champion. So I think San Diego State to the Pac-12 would not be a bad idea, as well as Boise State. I only wish BYU was going to the Pac-12. They're going to the Big 12, just because then the Holy War would make for an even bigger rivalry. But then again, we would have no Colorado-Utah, so overall, I think this is a really strong move by UCLA and USC. It's a risky move, but honestly, I think this is going to benefit USC and UCLA in the long run, especially when they want to have that competition going into the NCAA tournaments. And boy howdy, I really think that a whole bunch of these mainstream sports like football and basketball are going to be pay-per-view games. Like, I only wish, and I hate to use this as another example, I only wish volleyball would be the same thing. And then maybe women's soccer too. So there's that right there, and here's hoping we get ourselves a great. Here's hoping UCLA and USC get great strides in the Big Ten. And as for the Pac-12, well, you're no longer my business unless San Diego State moves there. So see you, Pac-12. We'll see you once 2024 hits. So there's that for that news. Now we jump on over to the NBA. So, NBA free agency just started. All I can really tell y'all is that Nick Batum is re-signing with the Clippers. John Wall is heading over to the Clippers, which is nice. Malik Monk is heading to the Sacramento Kings from the Lakers, which makes me sad face. And then the Lakers signed two other guys. One of them is Lonnie Walker, which I think is a solid move. I heard he had some solid numbers with his former team, which was San Antonio, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, San Antonio. He was very amazing with the Spurs. I won't call him amazing, but he was solid. And then Troy Brown Jr. is also going to the Lakers as well. I'm also getting word that Damian Jones might be heading to the Lakers. So, honestly, I think, for me, the Lakers are starting to get younger. At least they're doing that correctly. But, honestly, they have a long way to go in order to make their roster balanced and not, old. Marcus thinks he's funny. He says, 2 nobodies, LOL. Oh, that's funny, Marcus. Lonnie Walker is not that bad. He had some great moments with the Spurs. The only problem was that the Spurs were just not that good, and in my opinion. But now Marcus makes a great point. He says he can't believe they let Malik Monk go. That's a facts right there. I was like, no, please tell me this isn't true. And sure enough, Malik Monk is no longer a Laker, which was probably the worst thing that could happen to the Lakers. He was one of the bright spots for the Lakers last year, considering the Lakers had such a train wreck of a season. So, Lakers, you dropped the ball on that one. No pun intended. So, yeah, I can't believe they let Malik Monk go as well. So, I wish Malik Monk the best, and I hope he finds success with the Sacramento Kings. So, I want to say that's pretty much it. I haven't really heard too many news outside of John Wall going to the Clippers and then Nick Batum re-signing with the Clippers. Either way, that's still some good moves right there. Nick Batum is very underrated in my opinion. He's a great defender, and he has found ways to score, and he's able to pick up the slack. And also getting John Wall. Here's the thing about John Wall. Everyone is raving and saying, John Wall is a great signing. It's like, well, yes, but also no. Last year, John Wall sat the entire season for the Houston Rockets. And he's kind of getting up there in age. So, I think it's a mixed bag move. If the Clippers can make it work, which 95% of the time they do, it's a great signing. But if it turns out to being something like the Westbrook trade, then this is kind of a not-so-great move. But time will tell if the John Wall signing is great. If it's great, then honestly, good for the Clippers. They're going to revive his season, or his career. Especially since the Clippers just had such a dreadful season last year. Well, not dreadful, it's just that it was unfortunate because they had no Kawhi last year, and then Paul George got COVID. Well, not got COVID. He entered the COVID protocols the day of the Clippers win-or-go-home game. As we say hello to another John in the chat room, John Felipe, he says, have a great show. Teran, thank you very much. John will be coming on 30 minutes, in 35 minutes following my show. So let's jump on over to some MLB action. So, for the MLB, the Dodgers and the Clippers are in a 4-game series, the start of a 4-game series. And for the first time in what seems like forever, I finally got to see the Dodgers live. They were playing on FS1, and I was like, oh boy, I finally get to see the two teams play, just because I don't have a whole lot of time to see the Dodgers and the Padres or the Angels. And it's also blacked out from where I'm at, which makes me very sad face. But it's all good just because I'm a busy guy and it kind of works out for me. So yesterday, the Dodgers beat the Padres 3-1. They had themselves a strong game from Justin Turner, as he was 3 for 3 on the night. He had 2 home runs, one of which broke a 1-1 tie in the bottom of the 7th inning. And honestly, it was very good, honestly. I was quite impressed. And also, the Dodgers did not blow this game. And Corey Kimbrell had his first 1-2-3 inning for the first time in what seems like forever. So, honestly, good for the Dodgers. They know the magnitude of this series. They know that a win or a loss could sway the NL West division lead over to the other team. So for the Dodgers, this is a good step in the right direction because entering the series, the Padres were 1.5 games back of the Dodgers. So now the Dodgers get a little bit more breathing room, especially since the Dodgers also need to keep an eye out for the Giants. Even though the Giants are nowhere near as good as they were last year, there's still plenty of time for the Giants to catch up. And everyone, I'm just going to say this right now, everyone that says that the Dodgers and the Padres are a rivalry, ooh, big oof right there, just because the Dodgers have won 12 out of 13 against the Padres. They swept the Padres in the playoffs back in 2020. And honestly, I don't think we can consider that a rivalry just yet. Now, in due time, the Padres will eventually try to catch up with the Dodgers, and eventually they have to break through. Like, just because San Diego sports are cursed does not mean all of them will never win a championship. Like, that won't happen. Like, we'll eventually see one team from San Diego, even if it's like the lacrosse team, the Major League Lacrosse team from San Diego. But I digress. Okay, back to Dodgers and Padres. So we also got to remember that Fernando Tatis Jr. is not playing for San Diego as he's still recovering from a shoulder injury, which I think the Padres could really use him because they needed that run support from yesterday. But going back to the Dodgers, so the Dodgers entering that series were coming off of a series where they lost 2 of 3 to the Rockies. They lost the first game 4-0. They lost the second game 7-4, and then they won the final game 8-4. In that first game that I just mentioned, which they lost 4-0, the Dodgers only had 3 hits, which that's kind of not good if you ask me. And then Tyler Anderson suffered his first loss. It was 8-0 going into that game, so big oof. The previous series, the Dodgers actually took 2 out of 3 against the Atlanta Braves. They won the first game 4-1, lost the second game 5-3, and then won the third game 5-3 in 11 innings. And that actually marked the Dodgers' first extra innings win of the season. I want to say they lost like 8 or 9 games in extra innings, which is a big fat oof right there. I mean, you could blame the whole new extra innings rule, but honestly, if you can't capitalize on a man at second base and bringing him home, you don't deserve the honor of winning. But that's just my take. Don't blame the rules. Blame yourselves. That's just my little spiel I just came up. And then last, I don't know if I mentioned this, but the Dodgers swept the Cincinnati Reds on the road, winning 8-2, 8-4, and 10-5. So, like I mentioned, this weekend they are still at the Chavez Ravine to take on the Padres in the remainder of the 4-game series. Following that series, the Dodgers are still at home against the Rockies on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Then on Thursday through Sunday, or next Thursday through Sunday, where it's post-4th of July, the Dodgers will be at home to take on the Chicago Cubbies. So, on paper, it looks like the Dodgers have a good shot of gaining some ground in the NL West. But for me, the Dodgers don't have anything guaranteed, especially since what happened with the Rockies this past series. So, we'll see what happens going forward with the Dodgers. I just don't think that anyone can really there's a reason why the Yankees have moved past them in terms of World Series favorite. And because the Yankees are pretty much a complete team, as much as it pains me to say it. The Yankees have pretty much a complete team, and they compete well on a consistent basis. Now, I'm not saying the Dodgers aren't consistent or they're not complete. It's just that the Dodgers the Dodgers don't really have a good closer, and the Dodgers pitching is what really hurts them the most. Their pitching isn't bad, but it's certainly not good. It could be so much better. But then again, the Angels are in a much worse situation. But we're not talking about them. We're talking about Dodgers and Padres. Jumping over to the Padres, so I already mentioned that the Padres lost to the Dodgers. The previous series beforehand, we saw the Padres splitting the 2 games against the Arizona Diamondbacks, losing the first game 7-6, and then winning the second game 4-0. The previous series saw the Padres losing 3 out of 4 to the Philadelphia Phillies, of all teams. Last Thursday, they lost to the Phillies 6-2, then won the second game 1-0, lost the third game 4-2, and then they lost the fourth game 8-5. Now, honestly, that is a little concerning if you ask me. I didn't think the Padres would lose to the Phillies 3 times. I was expecting a split, but honestly, that's a little alarming, especially since they were just coming off of sweeping the Diamondbacks. So, for the Padres, I get it. They're not at full strength. They still don't have Fernando Tatis Jr., but they still have a lot of talent on that team. There's a reason why the Padres are pretty much on the coattails of the Dodgers, and they have the first wild card locked up for the time being. I think the Padres will be just fine. It's just that they have to beat up on the teams that they have to beat up on. Following the series against the Dodgers, the Padres have a 2-game series on Monday and Tuesday against the Mariners back at Petco Park. Then on Thursday through Sunday, that's when it gets really real for the Padres. They have a 4-game series at Petco Park against the Giants. Now, the Giants are still within striking distance of the Padres and the Dodgers. Yes, the Giants are 6.5 games back of the Dodgers, but honestly, that don't really mean a thing. For me, I think the Giants are still a big threat to the Dodgers, as they're more of a rival when it comes to the Dodgers, and I hate to get off topic from the Padres. The Dodgers and Giants, to me, are more of a rivalry than the Dodgers and the Padres. The Giants have actually won 7 out of the last 13 games against the Boys in Blue, and honestly, that's really close. And for me, I really think that we could consider Giants-Dodgers a rivalry more so than Dodgers-Padres. That's kind of my take, though. So, for me, I really think that the Giants are still not to be slept on. Even though they're 1 game out of the final wild card, I think they still have potential, and I think that they are going to make a strong push for that final wild card spot, if not any of the other wild card spots as well, just because now the MLB has expanded the playoff format to 3 wild card teams making the postseason, which I kind of find it a little canny. I understand we want to see more teams make the postseason, but part of me thinks that the MLB did that to try to get Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, and the Angels in the postseason, but it's clearly not working. So, either way, that's kind of it for the Dodgers and the Padres. Now we got to go to the black sheep, that is the Angels, when it comes to these MLB teams in Southern California. So, the Angels are still trying. They're still trying, but trying isn't really going to do them any good. Against the White Sox, their most recent series, yesterday they had the day off, by the way. They took 2 out of 3 against the White Sox. They won the first game 4-3. They lost the second game 11-4, and then they won the final game 4-1. Now, the most recent game in which the Angels played against the White Sox, Shohei Ohtani had himself quite the game, as he had 11 strikeouts, which, boy howdy, he is just so amazing. Yes, he only pitched 5 2/3 innings, but still, that's quite impressive, man. Like, it's so amazing. So, I really am happy that Shohei Ohtani is having success. I just wish the Angels could find some way to just give him more run support or just a better situation. So, and then we also had Mike Trout having himself a big game in the latter game of the series against the White Sox. So, there was that right there. And then the previous series between the Mariners, the Angels lost 2 out of 3. They lost the first game 4-3. They lost the second game 5-3, and then the Angels squeaked one out in the final game of the series 2-1. Now that last game of the series, oh boy, like I've never known the Angels for having brawls. This was a whole different story. I don't think the Mariners have been involved in so many brawls as well. But this was a whole different story. So, unfortunately, the Angels and the Mariners got involved in a brawl. There were 8 ejected from this brawl, and it was actually quite the melee. There was even a player from the Angels that hurt his shoulder or elbow getting involved in the brawl, and that's kind of the risk of what happens when you enter a brawl. You risk getting yourself hurt, and now he is out for like 6 months, which is bad news, Bears. So basically what happened was that one of the Angels pitchers threw the ball at the Mariners. I think he hit him in the butt, if not the back. Either way, he hit him in the backside, and honestly, that's when it all started. And I was like, whoa, Nelly. It's like, it was just crazy. At first, I didn't want to believe this. It's like, when did the Angels ever get involved in brawls? Well, now was the good time. And I even kind of joked on Twitter. I was like, I've always wanted to see the Angels show more fight when it comes to these games. But this wasn't what I had in mind. 2 poverty franchises fighting with one another. What can you do? Yes, and I called the Angels a poverty franchise. They kind of are, though. Like they haven't won a playoff game for Mike Trout in Mike Trout's career, and the last time they even won a playoff series, I think, was in like 2007 or 2008. I don't know the exact year, but I'm pretty sure it was pretty much in the late 2000s. Either way, back to the Angels. Last week, the previous series prior to the Mariners, the Angels had themselves a rough series against the Royals of all teams. I think I actually talked about this last show, but they lost to the Royals 6-2 in the first game, lost to the Royals 12-11 in 11 innings, and then Shohei Ohtani had 13 strikeouts, which is a new career high in a 5-0 win over the Royals. So for me, that was kind of the happy point of the Angels. And I do remember talking about this last week, but the Mariners series kind of left a little bad taste in my mouth just because they could have gained a little bit more ground had they not lost. Like, I was hoping the Angels would take 2 games instead of the Mariners. Yes, beggars can't be choosers, but honestly, it's just they could have done so much better against the Mariners. Now, the schedule starts to pick up for the Angels as the Angels head down to H-Town, where they will take on the Houston Astros starting at 5:10 tonight, and then it goes through Sunday. Then the Angels remain on the road to take on the Miami Marlins on Tuesday and Wednesday. Then the Angels have a 4-game series against the Baltimore Orioles next weekend. This will go from Thursday all the way to Sunday. Then the Angels are back home against the Astros, then have a 2-game series against the Dodgers, then have a 3-game series at the Atlanta Braves. So this month is really going to turn up the heat for the Angels. So it starts with the Astros on the road, and the Astros are not slowing down for anybody. Like, that team is pretty much that team pretty much has the AL West on lock, unfortunately. As much as I don't want to admit that, the Astros do have the AL West on lock, and unless someone else can do anything about it, the Astros are pretty much going to lock that division crown up sooner rather than later. So for the Angels, once again, they're still the black sheep of Southern California baseball in terms of the pros. Like, they have the worst record of the 3 SoCal teams, and they're basically floundering with the Mariners for 3rd place. Like, the best they're probably going to get is 2nd in the AL West behind Houston, but that's going to be a distant 2nd place. What's even worse and more mind-boggling is that the Angels actually have a positive differential where they're +4 despite having a sub-500 record. So, yeah, the Angels be like that sometimes. So, all the Angels could really do is just try. I mean, something else I find weird, well, I'll talk about that later, but the Angels, all they could just really do is try to, continue to, get better and try to improve. But the Angels at this point are looking like fresh meat for some of these other teams, especially the Astros. So that's going to do it for the MLB portion of the show. Let's jump on into some MLS, and then we can get on into the Dum Dum of the Week, and then I can send you all on your way to having a happy weekend. But first, I actually need to tell you all, I actually have an announcement at the end of the show, but you'll have to wait till the end of the show. Andrew says Angels need to let go of Ohtani and Trout so they can actually make the playoffs. Ha. Well, they'd have to get a big haul for that. They'd have to get Mondo picks and then Mondo prospects and whatnot. So jumping on over to the MLS. So LAFC and the Galaxy are both two different tales of two different teams. LAFC is looking like the big bully in the Western Conference, as in their most recent game, they beat Dallas this past Wednesday 3-1. That was only one of their big wins. Their other big win came on Sunday when they took down the New York Red Bulls at California Bank Stadium 2-0. And once again, I butchered the LAFC's stadium name. It's Bank of California Stadium. It's Bank of California Stadium, not California Bank Stadium. Bank of California Stadium. I'm going to get that right without looking at it. Anyway, so the reason why I think LAFC's win over New York was quite impressive was because New York was actually near the top of the Eastern Conference. Going into that game, New York was second in the Eastern Conference, and they're actually in a logjam for first place with Montreal and Philadelphia, and New York City FC isn't too far back of them. So one of the reasons why I think that was a big win just is because they don't really get to face the Eastern Conference all that much, and also beating a team that's also good in the East could also be a preview for the MLS Cup. If I remember correctly, LAFC tied with Philadelphia, which I think was okay. It wasn't great, but it just shows that the East still has some stud teams. So, and the best part is that Gareth Bale is still not eligible to play until El Tráfico next weekend. Andrew says LFC should take the Western Conference with Bale and Giorgio Chiellini being brought in and Carlos Vela resigning. They should be unbeatable. Yes, and facts, Andrew. And I said this last week. The number of excuses for LAFC this year is starting to dwindle a lot. I do not want to hear any more excuses from them. Last year, obviously, it was just some sort of weird thing where they basically just found themselves out on the outside looking in just because of unfortunate turns of events. And they also had that 2-month losing streak where they couldn't, well, not losing streak. They went 2 full months without a win, which really cost them in the long run. So for LAFC, yeah, they don't have any excuses anymore. They have so much talent on their team, and it's basically you basically can't lose when it truly matters. And honestly, when it comes playoff time, they can't go Peyton Manning. They know with all that talent on their team, they have to strike while the iron's hot. Because if not, then they're basically going to be little brother behind the shadow of the Galaxy, even though the Galaxy are not doing well. Speaking of the Galaxy, might as well get to them. Galaxy had themselves an ugly game on Wednesday against Minnesota. As I should also make note, before I get into that game, I should also make note that if LAFC doesn't win, then they could be the San Diego Chargers of of the past where they wasted Dan Fouts and Philip Rivers' career. But I wouldn't go that far. It's just that those Charger teams had so much talent, and then they could not win the big games. They were either losing to the Patriots or the Jets or the Steelers or any of that. Jumping on over to the Galaxy. The Galaxy lost to Minnesota 3-2, which was probably the most ugliest game I have ever witnessed. Honestly, the game was pretty much over at halftime, just because everything that could have gone wrong for the Galaxy did go wrong. Minnesota scored in the 9th minute thanks to Emmanuel Reynoso, and then that's not what happened. That's not what was worse. The worst part was it was the 25th minute, and I guess LAFC's coach got a red card, and yikes. Oof. That eventually the Galaxy had to play man down the rest of the game. So it was in the 25th minute, and that's basically, I want to say it's like, that's 2/3 of the game that the Galaxy had to play man down, and that's not good if you ask me. Like, you cannot have that happening. It's like, it just does not work that way. It would be absolutely terrible to play man down. It just makes the game so much tougher when you play man down. So for the Galaxy, they kind of put themselves in that hole, and eventually they paid for it. Franco Fragapane was able to score to give Minnesota a 2-0 lead. Then, in the later stages of the first half, Reynoso scored another goal, and it was 3-0, and I'm just looking at the score, and I'm like, oh. I guess the Galaxy forgot there was a game on, and then I saw that their coach got red carded, and then everything just looked bleak for the Galaxy. However, the second half was a complete flip-flop. The Galaxy were able to score from a penalty shot from Marquis Delgado, and they had quite a number of chances in the second half. They almost found goal number 2 right after that penalty shot. It's just that Minnesota was just doing all it can to prevent the Galaxy from scoring again, which if the Galaxy did get that second goal, then Minnesota would have been on its heels. The Galaxy did eventually get their second goal, but it did not come until the 90th minute in stoppage time when Dejan Hovlicic scored. Unfortunately, the Galaxy just could not find that extra goal, as eventually they lost 3-2. And then also, Douglas Costa was red carded at the end of the game just because there was like a scuffle at the end of the game. And honestly, the Galaxy deserved to lose. I hate to say that, but the Galaxy deserved to lose that game. It was just so unacceptable. Like, when you're down 3-0, and when you're down a player, you are not going to win any games, anytime, any place. I should also make note that Minnesota did get red carded in the... Oh, wait, no, they didn't get red carded until, like, the end of the game. So, basically, Minnesota was man up the whole game, and it could have been a whole lot worse. It's just that the Galaxy showed a lot of grit and determination in the second half. But by the time they showed the grit and determination, they were facing the worst lead of probably a whole lot of sports. 3-0 in my opinion. So that's the bad news for the Galaxy. The good news is that they remained in sixth place in the Western Conference. But Seattle is starting to creep up on the Galaxy, though they did lose to Montreal 2-1. Andrew made note in the chat that the Galaxy need to beat a red-hot Montreal team on Monday, which, that's going to be a tough battle right there. Like, he mentions Montreal. Ooh. Fortunately, the Galaxy do get to play at Dignity Health Sports Park, but they are playing that very hot Montreal team. They've won 2 in a row, and beating Seattle is no easy feat, if you ask me. So, I really think the Galaxy, if the Galaxy do win that game, that is huge right there, just because the next game following that is going to be LAFC at Bank of California Stadium, and those two games are brutal right there. And that Montreal game could also be a trap game, That's because it's so easy to look at your rival going ahead. However, you have to get past Montreal first. And that LAFC matchup is going to be tough because that's going to be Gareth Bale's first match that he gets to play in as a member of LAFC. And that's a big yikes if you ask me. So it's going to be tough sledding for the Galaxy going into the first two matches of July. And then it might get a little tougher because they have Dallas at the end of the month. Atlanta shouldn't be too bad at the second to last game of the month. And then Colorado is should be winnable, but we're talking about the Galaxy here. They don't really make a whole lot of things easy on themselves. So for the Galaxy, they're just having a rough time as it is. Like, there is hope for them, but it's not. I think what happened was that I think, and this is a little too early to say this. I don't want to say this in a mean way, but I think Sacramento broke the Galaxy. It's still a little early to say that just because we have plenty of season left, but I really think Sacramento kind of broke the Galaxy spirit just because the Galaxy, they played horrible against Sacramento. There's no other way to say it. They just did not care. And Andrew says the MLS or the game is unpredictable, which is why I love it. I love it too, and I love how there's so much parity of it and how the teams from last year or in previous years aren't doing so well as opposed to this year and vice versa. So I really think that's the beauty of the MLS, and I think it's incredible. So for the Galaxy, they play Montreal on Monday. I forgot all about LAFC. They, on the other hand, play Vancouver on the road tomorrow, which, looking at Vancouver, they're kind of near the bottom of the Western Conference. If LAFC were to win that one, that would be huge right there just because they'd have a lot of momentum going into El Tráfico. However, that could be a trap game just because LAFC just can't look that far ahead, considering they obviously want to lick their chops at facing the Galaxy, since they've lost to the Galaxy twice. Once in the U.S. Open Cup, and then the other in an MLS game where VAR kind of screwed LAFC. So the battle of LA versus Canada is going to be huge, as Andrew points out, LA versus Canada. And I really am looking forward to seeing if LAFC can continue its hot streak. I really think that maybe the loss to the Galaxy in the round of 16 in the U.S. Open Cup kind of woke up the bear within LAFC. But that's just a speculation on my part. So we'll see what the Galaxy can do. LAFC. We'll see what LAFC can do. But overall, I'm liking LAFC's chances. They should have a good... If for some reason they do lose to Vancouver, then I have the right to be concerned again. But they are 5 points ahead of Austin. As long as they beat the opponents they're supposed to beat with that super stacked team, LAFC should be just fine. That's going to do it for the MLS portion. Let's jump on over to some NWSL just because we have to show some love to Angel City and Wave FC. I was blanking on the name. So the NWSL actually had themselves a little bit of a break, but now the NWSL is getting back on track starting tonight as Angel City plays Portland. Now, LAFC's most recent game Angel City's most recent game saw them lose to OL Reign back on June 18th, where they lost 1-0, which, yikes, oof. So they're playing a Portland team which is on a roll, if you ask me. I mean, they haven't in their last 5 games they have not lost a match, which I think is incredible. And they're second in the NWSL standings, which is kind of concerning for San Diego. But for Angel City, it still is tough not having Kristen Harper. They did get someone from, I think, free agency, if not a trade. but I don't know if they're like too big of an impact player. Either way, replacing Kristen Harper after she tore her ACL is still going to get some time to getting used to. I think Angel City has that potential. Like, if the playoffs ended, or if the regular season ended today, they would be in the playoffs, as they would take on the Chicago Red Stars. And then once you make the big dance, that's when anything can happen. It's just that Angel City is just going to have to make do without Kristen Harper. And for me, I think it's all about adapting. And I feel Angel City has potential. They have had some solid wins. It's just that now they're going to have to turn to life without Kristen Harper. And I think it's going to take some getting used to for Angel City. But if they're able to overcome that, then boy howdy, then this team is going to be quite something come playoff time. And then jumping over to San Diego Wave, their last game saw them beating Gotham 3-0. Their next match is on Sunday at Torero Stadium against Washington. Now, it could obviously be easy to overlook Washington just because their next game following that is against Angel City, which is kind of their interstate rival. I don't know if we can consider Angel City and Wave FC a true rivalry just yet, but I think it's always a good thing to have that interstate rivalry, just because it's always good to have that San Diego versus LA sort of thing, which I think is kind of cool if you ask me. But that's just my take. So, continuing on with San Diego Wave FC, I think the Wave are still doing good, and they're still atop the NWSL standings. It's just that their lead is starting to thin as Portland is getting hot, and honestly, Portland, I honestly am not surprised Portland is getting hot when it comes to these matches. I still am very salty at the fact that Wave lost, or they tied with Portland despite having a goal being taken away from them. Well, a goal wasn't taken away from them. It's just that a goal wasn't called because there was no VAR or no instant replay or any of that sort. I'm still very salty at that, and no one can tell me otherwise. Don't even get me started, y'all. But I definitely think that San Diego should be able to beat Washington. Washington is trying to fight for a spot in the top 6. And believe it or not, there's actually only 12 more games remaining, as San Diego and Angel City have both crossed the halfway point. They're more than halfway done with the season, so I really think that the second half is really going to test Angel City and Wave, especially Angel City, considering they don't have Kristen Harper. But for the Wave, they have a big target on their back. No one is going to underestimate them, especially since they have Alex Morgan on their team. That is huge right there. So for Wave, they just have to ride momentum and make sure they're able to beat up on the teams that they're supposed to beat up on. Kind of like how the Galaxy need to do when they're facing subpar opponents. But I digress on that. So that is going to do it for the NWSL portion of the show. And that is pretty much going to do it for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. But before we go, we have the Dum Dum of the Week Award. So the Dum Dum of the Week Award can go to anyone, any place, anytime, anywhere. No one is safe from this award. And I actually have 3 Dum Dum of the Week's awards. Dum Dum of the Week awards to give out. And you know what? The first Dum Dum of the Week award goes to yours truly, me. So obviously, I could be forgetful sometimes. But here's why I'm getting Dum Dum of the Week award. So yesterday it was like 10 o'clock and I showered before I went to bed. And my hair and my body were still a little damp, and the AC was on, and I just needed a little bit of a blow dry. And then I basically went up to bed. What I forgot to do, however, was I forgot to turn off the air conditioner. Yeah, I forgot to turn off the AC. So you're probably wondering, when did I turn on the air conditioner? I turned it on at about, I want to say it was like 7 o'clock. So 7 o'clock, and my mom eventually turned it off at 5 a.m. So that's 10 hours right there. Oh boy, our electric bill is going to be high, and it's because I forgot to turn off the air conditioner. I didn't mean to, and that's totally on me. And because of my incompetence of not turning off the air conditioner before going to bed, and what's going to have my electric bill for our house going way up, I am this week's Dumb of the Week Award recipient number 1.
You're so dumb. You are really dumb.
Wait. My guy. Let me turn you up real quick. Tell me that again.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
Yeah, that was completely on me. I can't believe I forgot to turn off the air conditioner. Mom, if you're listening, I'm sorry. Anyway, we have 2 more Dumb of the Week awards. Then I'll let you all go, and then I'll let you all listen to John Felipe's show, Carolina Cast. So, second Dumb of the Week award. So, as we all know, the NHL season is officially over as the Colorado Avalanche dethroned the 2-time Stanley Cup champions, the Tampa Bay Lightning. They won in 6 games. And Colorado, for the first time since 2001, has won the Stanley Cup championship. Okay, it's not that important, but honestly, good for Colorado. They were able to win the Stanley Cup. And honestly, having the Stanley Cup championship there's no better feeling than having the Stanley Cup championship and Lord Stanley's Cup. And all these hockey players get to do a lot of things with Lord Stanley's Cup. They get to have dinner with it, and some, if the cup is cleaned, they get to eat out of Lord Stanley's Cup. However, Colorado did one thing that I did not think was possible when it came to Lord Stanley's Cup. What they did was they accidentally broke Lord Stanley's Cup. Oh my gosh. Let me just say, Colorado had pulled a Wisconsin when they won the Mayo Bowl. How do you break Lord Stanley's Cup? Like, that cup looks pretty big, and I'm surprised that they were able to break it. And then also, in addition to breaking the Stanley Cup, they unfortunately dented the bottom of it, which now it looks like, remember how, for those that watch SpongeBob, where Squidward tried to teach SpongeBob all about art and music, or art and whatnot, and he drew that poorly drawn circle? Everyone is basically describing that poorly drawn circle that Squidward drew as the bottom part of Lord Stanley's Cup. But for Colorado, how do you break Lord Stanley's Cup? How? It just makes zero sense. I'm sorry, but you have to be pretty klutzy in order to do that. And you're hockey players. You should be fairly strong, and you should be able to carry Lord Stanley's Cup. But for the Colorado Avalanche that dropped Lord Stanley's Cup and broke it and dented its bottom, you are this week's Dumb of the Week Award recipient number 2.
You're so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
Now we get on into the final Dumb of the Week award, and we're going to end this one on a positive note, a positive and a funny note. So, the NBA season has also concluded with the Golden State Warriors beating the Boston Celtics in 6 games. So, for those that were wondering, the Warriors were not the number 1 seed; they were the number 3 seed. The number 1 seed of the NBA playoffs, or in terms of the Western Conference, was the Phoenix Suns. And honestly, they lost, for those that don't know, they lost to the Dallas Mavericks in 7 games in the second round. And while every Phoenix Suns fan has pretty much come to grips with it, and they've moved on, and they're looking forward to the Diamondbacks and the Arizona Cardinals, there was one man who was very salty at the fact that, and wants the playoff format changed. And this man was Chris Paul. He said via the BC Sports Pod All I'm saying is we had the best record in the league by 8 games, and then one small series, and our series is over. How good is that for the NBA? Let me say that again. Chris Paul, and I quote, said, all I'm saying is we had the best record in the league by 8 games, and then one small series, and our season is over. How is that good for the NBA? Okay, let me just tell you this. This man is literally crying over the fact that his team lost a series despite being the number 1 seed. First of all, dude, why are you even making a huge deal of this? Like, your team lost on the biggest stage. You lost in the second round. I don't want to hear your excuses. You were the number 1 seed. You had home court throughout the entire NBA playoffs. And you're crying foul about how your team, who had the best record in the league, lost a series. And you're crying about it? It's like, dude. It's like, and you're saying, how was that good for the NBA? It's really good for the NBA. It gives parity to a lot of these teams. And you're out here saying, well, is that good for the NBA? We had the best record. We lost in the second round. Wah. Bro, Chris Paul, I've always had mixed feelings about Chris Paul. I really think it can be a bit of a whiner. And he's had a lot of temper tantrum moments when he was on the Clippers. But this one kind of takes the cake. The dude was literally crying foul just because his team lost. And it's like, well, what do you want the playoff format to be? For you to have, like, a bye all the way to the Western Conference Finals? This isn't the WNBA, dude. You either have to win when it matters or be Peyton Manning and go the frick home. I can't believe Chris Paul even mentioned this. I can't believe Chris Paul was whining about this. And I can't believe Chris Paul even made note of this. But for Chris Paul and his antics for saying, how is this good for the NBA, you are this week's Dumb Dumb of the Week award, numero tres.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
And that, my friends, is all she wrote. That's going to do it for this week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. But before we go, next week is the 2-year anniversary of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. 2 years of SoCal being for SoCal, and honestly, I can't wait for it. I'm going to try to have something special planned, whether it's like a Q&A or any of that sort, but next week is the 2-year anniversary show, and I really am excited for it. Without any further delay, let's get on out of here, because Carolina Cast is following me, and I gotta get out of here because I got me a summer basketball tournament to attend. You dig? Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I really do appreciate you all tuning in. Big shout out to John Coupe for letting me go over. Thank you for being a good sport. Shout out to Marcus Most-Great, Andrew Higginball in the chat room, as well as Mike Pack. I really do appreciate you all tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I really do appreciate you. Once again, SoCal Supreme Sports Show will be back next Friday at its usual time, 5 p.m. for the 2-year anniversary special. I'm not sure about set point. It's probably going to be on Monday. I'm not sure if it'll be at its regular time, but either way, I'll figure it out. I am resilient with set points, and somewhat resilient with SoCal Supreme Sports Show. But either way, you all have yourself a great weekend. Enjoy the 4th of July. Please don't blow off your hands when it comes to fireworks. It is sunburn season, so please wear your sunscreen. If you are sunburned, then please have your aloe vera ready. Please don't do anything stupid over the weekend. Be a good person, be a good citizen, just be a good everything. I will see you Monday for set points, most likely, just because next week is also the last week of the NBA season, but I digress in terms of the Lakers. But have a great weekend, and remember everybody, SoCal is for SoCal. Peace!